Why is your ex an ex? I was in the emergency room with kidney stones. Didn't know it was kidney stones at the time. Just knew I was in the most pain I'd ever been in. She got me because you're not paying attention to me. Seriously, I'm in a freaking emergency room hooked up to an IV with painkillers flowing through me. At this point I'm half conscious cause of the morphine. And apparently I'm a piece of crap for not paying attention to her. It came to a head when I asked her to get a nurse because something didn't feel right. They had gave me something I was allergic to and I was starting to have an allergic reaction. She said, "Fine, I'll just be your babysitter." At that point I just told her to go home. That her negativity was making me feel worse. She got all pissy, threw a fit, and left in a rage. Next day I didn't even call her for a ride back home when I got out of the hospital. I called my aunt and had her drive me home. The moment I got home I started packing my crap. If you have to be the center of attention and can't feel any empathy whatsoever while I'm in the goddamn emergency room, you're a garbage human I don't want anything to do with. I have a theory that your story illustrates. Don't marry someone until you've shared a personal crisis together. Like it or not, they are going to happen in your life. You can see someone's character when the chips are down and life isn't going your way. Only then can you really see what type of human being they are. Like people said below, she did you a favor. 4 years never cheated. She cheated twice. Nobody's perfect excuse. I have problems too. I'd work all day to pay bills. She brought a homeless guy home, let him live in our house while I worked without my knowing, ate my food, played my games, banged my lady while I paid for it all. SHTF. Months later attempt to rekindle the flame, goes sour. A week later impregnant text. Lots of long nights and deep thinking about life. Except that I must be a father to my child. Another week passes, it's not actually yours, it's homeless guys. I just thought you would be a good dad. Bye Felicia. We dated for about 6 years, and I thought things were going quite well. When we started dating, she thought she was asexual and so sex wasn't really a main focus in our relationship, which wasn't a deal breaker for me, so I rolled with it. About a month or two before we broke up, I could feel some distance being forged between us. At first I chalked it up to her being busy with a new job and family obligations, but more and more she would reference one of her co-workers. I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me, but I trusted her completely, so I didn't tell her not to talk to him or anything, and she reassured me that there was nothing going on between them. Well, one night we're talking over Messenger and our conversation took a pretty serious turn where she basically admitted to me that she didn't think she was as asexual as she thought she was, and that she didn't find me appealing in that way at all. It devastated me, but I ultimately accepted it. Naturally, I asked if her co-worker had any role in her decision to break up, which she was adamant that he didn't. Not even 2 weeks later, I find out that the two of them started dating, which really made me go into a deep depression. I'm happy to say that it's been a little over a year since then, and I've lost over 130 pounds, and I'm finally at a healthy weight for the first time in my adult life. My social life is the best it's ever been. I got my degree, and have an excellent new job. At one point I thought my life was over, and in some regards, I was right. My life as I had known it was over, but my new life is so much better. Dang, that ending makes me so happy. I'm so glad you're healthy now and in such a better place. Congrats on your new life, dude. Everything happens for a reason. You can't always stick to severely mentally ill people in a relationship and expect it to work out great. Sometimes you think you've found a soulmate when in reality your demons just get along really well with theirs. He wanted to date someone exactly like him, and I couldn't be that person. He made me feel guilty for not enjoying everything he enjoyed. If he hadn't ended things, I was going to. We just weren't compatible. She didn't want to commit, but she didn't want to be alone. She liked to pretend that she didn't need my company, and that life was a cabaret, but she did, and it really wasn't for her. Something in her was afraid of getting too close. I just got tired of it. Been married 18 years, so my ex was an ex from about 23 years ago. Reason he's my ex? Got my friend preggers. When I confronted him he suggested we stay together and have threesomes. Yep, nope. Frick, What a 200 IQ play. I know this is a massive betrayal of trust that will take you years to recover from, but consider this. Threesome. This was the worst one. We were in a long distance relationship. It wasn't working out for him though, so he broke up with me. We still kept daily contact however. When he came back to visit my city as his home, he told me that he missed me, and so we hung out the entire week he was there, had sex and all that. I was pretty sure we were going to make it work and get back together. That's what I was hoping. Turns out, when he went back to his other country, I found out by luck that he was actually in a relationship with another girl. So yeah, he cheated on her with me. The best part? This was a girl that I had some red flags up on when we were still together, and he was actually dating her while we were still together. Yup. Felt like a complete idiot, and that's how he became my ex forever. This is similar to my story, but flip the genders, and it all happened as she was on study abroad. I had talked to her about visiting and she didn't seem interested. On her spring break, she visited her ex, also in Europe at the time, and started that back up. I only found out because of Facebook. I knew him for about 3 months and he wanted to know when he could ask my dad to marry me. He thought 6 months of dating would be good, and he had our whole life planned out. We were both only 17 at the time. Now he just crap talks me on Twitter months after we broke up. Hey, maybe if I crap talk her on social media, she'll change her mind and marry me. Faked a pregnancy when I tried to break up. Cheated multiple times. 2 real suicide attempts when I tried to break up. Fake rape claim threat when I tried to break up. My hands started sweating and my heart was racing when I saw pictures of her recently. This happened over 2 years ago. This tiny girl terrifies me. Dang, I'm lost for words. He cheated on me. His excuse was it wasn't anything sexual. I just wanted to show her my dong, then she grabbed it and put it in her. His words, not mine. Then I tripped and fell into her vagina. My girlfriend was verbally abusive on a regular basis. She would also get physically abusive when she drank too much. She wasn't really strong enough to hurt me seriously, but when the person you love starts trying to sucker punch you, it is really frustrating. I still miss her a lot. Some days she was wonderful and the sweetest person ever. Others she was bitter, angry, and would do anything to try to get a reaction out of me by insulting me. Started to become my insecure high school self after a while and had to give up. She dealt with a lot of really horrible abuse in her past and I didn't want to ever be the next abuser because of my own anger and frustration, so I had to let her go. Still miss her. Still love her. Wish things had been different. Told me he was afraid I'd gain a lot of weight and wanted to feel he could have sex anytime he wanted. Guess you can't have spontaneous sex with a woman who's a little overweight. Joke's on him. I lost weight and he gained weight. Seriously though, I love these post-breakup weightless stories. Happy for you and good luck. My ex is an ex because he was manipulative and emotionally abusive. He also hated my friends and family. He tried telling me that they were toxic for me so I could never see them. When I was nearly robbed, before the story came out, he said, "Dang, I didn't know that your great-great-grandparents' medals were stolen." She freaking hired 2 guys to rob me because I told her my brother was having a serious asthma attack and I'll be at the hospital. She wanted to show me that she found the medals. Because I'm a selfish butthole. Being a selfish butthole is fine if you're by yourself and want to be that way, but other people tend to not like it very much when looking for company. I really wanna stop being this type of guy, since I really enjoy other people's company. Still working on it. He was truly a phenomenal person, but something just didn't click romantically. I just didn't feel the way I thought I should have felt about him. I had a good friend in school I had a huge crush on, but he wasn't feeling the chemistry. It hurt, but God, I'm so glad he was upfront about it, while still remaining kind, instead of trying to pretend. We're still friends, but I'm with a guy who loves me exactly like I love him, and he found a wonderful woman who he has oodles of chemistry with, and we're both so much better for it. He punched me in the face after a petty argument. No one should stand for physical abuse. Diagnosed with ADHD, early signs of dementia, hypothyroidism and polycystic ovarian syndrome. She had to go back to her country to focus on her treatment and therapy, but we still talk to each other sometimes. Sucks cause she was the best person I've ever met. Because we were two different people in two different places in our life. Also BC, she had a nasty habit of banging my friends, but that's besides the point. If you friends let her shag them, then they are not your friends. He threatened suicide every few weeks. He constantly performed tests on me to see if I loved him enough or that I could be trusted. I always failed them. He would demand I stay up on the phone almost every night until 1 AM or later listening, not talking, to him. I would be expected to stay awake and listen to his rambling anecdotes for hours silently. If I spoke, I'd make him lose his train of thought. If I fell asleep, I got screamed at or a day of the cold shoulder. These are just a few examples. I was a young teenager who got sucked into a cycle of psychological abuse for a few years. I'm fine now for the most part. It was mutual after a couple big discussions. I wanted to travel, she didn't. I don't want to have children, and she did. I didn't want her freaking her ex, but she did. Gotta decide on what your deal breakers are, I guess. Because I started using H and she cheated. Cause I was an insecure butthole who only worried about myself. One of the biggest frick ups of my life. Really let a good one go. He ended up being crazier than I initially wanted to believe. Years of stalking after our breakup really did turn me into a paranoid freak. But in time I am doing a lot better. Lesson learned. He thought people finding out he was dating an Asian American would be embarrassing. So bullet dodge, but I wish I could say I was the one who decided that. Because I could predict the entirety of the rest of my life and I didn't like it. I would have taken over the family bakery and spent every day waking up at 3 AM to make donuts. 9 AM would be the start time for sausages. Leave the bakery at 4 PM, deposit the daily sales before the bank closes. Drive home and eat the unsold sausages for dinner. Watch TV for 1.5 hours before falling asleep in a chair. Wake up at 3 AM. Repeat. Forever. There was no joy in her father's eyes. Joy left years ago. An 8-year lasagna of me being noticeably depressed, me not making continuous romantic gestures, a long-term sense of complacency on both our parts and both of us gravitating towards opposite directions in life. I dated her for almost a decade. I'm 25, and our time together made me a better person. I'm grateful for the time we shared and don't regret it, but I've made my peace and spent nearly 2 years swallowing that bitter, gargantuan pill. I wish her the best and view her in warm regard, but I don't want to be her friend or even cross paths with her ever again. Getting over the breakup had to be the hardest thing I've ever done, and picking that scab just to keep up the meaningless platitude of we can still be friends would be a waste of both of our time. Talk more about lasagna. Stuck in a house with him for 4 years, somehow got isolated and separated from everyone I knew. Couldn't leave the house out of fear. Heard him talking in at least 4 different personalities to himself. Threatened rape if I didn't sexually do what he wanted. Then turned around and claimed he hadn't said that I was confused. Killed my pet rat. Duct taped my dog's face closed. Took pictures and laughed with his friends. Finally lied through my teeth to get him out of the house long enough to leave him. Got stalked for 3 years. Cut my brake lines. I eventually moved states 5 times. Guess I am safe now. That was a wild ride to just read. I hope you are doing well and continue to be safe. I'm glad you didn't let him control your life and you got away from that. He sounds like he might have some mental illness like bipolar or something. Stay strong and keep pursuing happiness. She pushed me to reveal my secrets, then used them to manipulate me. For some reason, she thought her vagina was enough to keep me around and all she needed to bring to the table. By ho. Begone thought. She was the right person for me. I wasn't the right person for her. And just when we started to get really serious, my mental health took a serious nosedive that neither of us were expecting. She knew what I struggled with, but even I didn't know I could get as bad as I did then. Despite being madly in love with her, I ended up in a dark place. She decided she didn't want to put up with that. I don't blame her, but it's been hard. She left for another guy. She broke up with me in civilized manner. She said there is a guy at her uni she is really into and she doesn't feel the spark between us anymore. I was glad she was open with me instead of just cheating. This guy rejected her advances and she tried to get back with me. Well, you said it's over. It's over. She's been single for a few years now. And I met an amazing new partner soon after the breakup. It's better to be single than to be with the wrong person. After he got chemotherapy, he started to take drugs like H&C. He completely changed and I couldn't take it anymore. Another one beat me and sexually abused me because he thought it would be funny to see me cry. That was his answer when I and a friend of mine who I told this confronted him about that. He went away on a work trip 6 months into our marriage and came home and told me he decided he wanted kids but didn't think I'd be a good mother because my own mother was abusive. So he left me for someone who looks almost exactly like me, only 14 years younger. I was not involved with this decision, and I could not change his mind. I'm still trying to find my worth again. You're worthy and worthwhile and deserving of love. You're now free to find that love. He had his mom texted me to break up with me just before a big vacation we were going to take together. We were both adults. Also, his dog was extremely aggressive towards me, but crap, I would be too if I hadn't been walked in 2 weeks. Because I was in butthole overall, I never took the relationship, or her, serious. I wasted 2 years of her life. The worst part is it took me a while after we broke up for me to realize it really was my fault. I've changed a lot about myself since then. That's a brave, underrated comment. Good for you for changing, man. Keep it up. Abusive as frick. Finally cut all contact with him and got him banned from my apartment building. Hasn't tried to contact me in months, but I see him drive by almost every morning when I walk to the city bus stop. I'm glad you got out of the relationship. I hope you find someone much better for you. Sociopath narcissist. Emotionally abusive. Not something they teach you about. It's very subtle how it happens. Traumatizing. I'll only give my last two to keep it somewhat concise. The woman before my last ex. Well, she had the unfortunate timing of being with me when my father's best friend died unexpectedly when I was in my early 20s. While we had been together about 3 years, I said frick the world and turned into an alcoholic and moved 2,000 miles away. I actually feel bad for her. 6 months into my self-destructive path, I am sleeping with this girl, on the wrong side of the crazy hot scale. Pretty much daily, but I have made it clear it is a FWB situation and I am not interested in a relationship with her. That didn't work for her, but IDGAF, so I keep putting my dong in crazy and drinking. Hindsight is 20/20. So when I start casually dating another woman on the side 6 months later, she, crazy, hot, is P and takes it out on my vehicle, and with a bout of stalking, that other woman somehow stuck with me, got me help for my drinking. Helped me move past the loss of my father, then became my wife and mothered my children. I don't know what I did to deserve her, but she literally saved my life and I'll never be able to repay her. He was an abusive, drug-addicted alcoholic who would drug me and who literally gaslighted me into multiple psychotic breaks. One day, after he shouted at me in front of his friend after I begged him to close the door so his friend wouldn't hear him, I just snapped and screamed and shouted in his face just to freaking stop. And then he was the one that broke up with me. He turned to his friend and said she's a freaking psycho. And that was that. It was my first relationship and it has really done a number on me and how I perceive normal relationships. I'm still trying to come to terms with it over a year later. I feel you. Take all the time you need to find your normal. Any red flags in the next one, just run. Don't tolerate anything that's like the last. You deserve good things. Hope you're coping well. He constantly belittled me because he was jealous of my success. He had no ambition or job. He thought having a homosexual affair outside of our heterosexual marriage shouldn't count because at least he came home at the end of the night. It was all my fault because I visited my family once and he was lonely. I had been considering breaking up with her for a while because she would lie about little things that made no sense lying about. Never cheated or anything, but would do anything so that she would get more attention from me and other people. I started noticing this when one night she sent me screenshots of her text messages between her and her dad. I had known her dad for a while and the things he was saying in these texts were awful. They were things like "you're worthless, I wish you weren't my daughter." They were things he would never ever say. If there was one thing he showed was how much he loved his 2 daughters. I was kind of skeptical when she sent me these because he would never say that stuff. But obviously I couldn't just come out and tell her I didn't believe her, cause if it was true then I'd be a terrible person. What I thought was happening was I thought she was changing her contact info and texting herself, making it seem like it was her dad who was sending that stuff. Anyways, this happens a few more times in the next few weeks and I'm just there for her, trying to be a good boyfriend because there's always a chance it could be true. Well, one weekend she went to a concert with her friend and after the concert she was drunk and we were FaceTiming and she told me that I was still in love with my ex. Immediately I'm like, what are you talking about? Why do you say that? And she responds by telling me that I texted my ex telling her I still love her and she has the screenshot. I told her to send it to me and there it was, a screenshot of me telling my ex I love her. The problem was that I never sent that and it was obvious she texted herself saying that because she was drunk and wasn't able to type that out correctly. She made it realistic though, because she even went out of her way to use the exact contact picture I had for my ex, which was a very unique dumb picture. The moment this happened I knew the screenshots of her dad weren't real and I proceeded to say goodnight and break up with her the day she got back. That is why she is my ex. Found pictures of her getting double teamed in our bed while I had been out of town taking care of my mother who had terminal cancer. A lot of issues, as we were very young, and had been living together since 1820, but together since we were 16. We naturally drifted apart as in love as we were. Also had a habit of banging our close friend while I was working to make the rent, but the key reason is we were young. These comments always get me. Yep, that seems reasonable. Cheating again. That suck though. Yo. I'm sorry you had to go through that. The distance became too hard for us. More so her, and she ended it with me as it was freaking hard dating across an ocean. Still friendly though and chat every now and again. He was a she. Short version, we had been friends for ages. Got it on. Went sour quick. I moved on. Married. Was content and he got in touch to tell me about their transition. Now we're great friends and a lot of niggling issues have been put to rest. She's awesome and I love her. It's really reassuring seeing a positive story here. I'm glad for both of you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.